Hi everyone and welcome back to The Property Perspective. I'm Josh.
And I'm Michelle. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. We'll be diving into the upcoming changes in rental laws and what they might mean for landlords, tenants, and of course, property investors.
Definitely. Now this is a big topic, of course, and while change often brings uncertainty, we want to focus on those potential opportunities that these changes can create, especially here in Lancaster and Morecambe property market.
So let's start by laying out the key changes on the horizon. A big one is the push for better tenant protections. These include limits on rent increases, bans, no-fault evictions, and the mandatory minimum energy efficiency standards, also known as the EPC.
Easy for you to say. So these changes are all part of a larger movement towards fairness and sustainability in the rental sort of sector in general. The idea is to create sort of like a more stable environment for tenants, which in turn can foster longer term tenancies and better for landlords.
Of course, but we can't ignore that these changes will add new responsibilities for landlords. For instance, retrofitting older properties to meet energy standards could be a significant cost.
Definitely. I mean, there are incentives, there's grants available for these energy upgrades, which can often offset these costs. The government are looking to consult on changing the whole way EPCs are done, that'll be sales and lettings. So we'll have to wait and see what comes next year. But in any event, properties with that higher energy performance are often going to attract better tenants, and they can command higher rents because of that fact.
That is a very great point. And of course, we must not forget that Lancaster and Morecambe markets already benefit from relatively affordable entry points compared to the larger cities. So the cost of compliance may be less daunting here than for those higher price areas such as London, Manchester and so forth.
No, definitely. I mean, let's break it down for our viewers. So what do you see sort of like as the main sort of pros, I suppose, of these changes?
Okay, so I'd say the increased tenant protections and energy efficient standards make the rental market more appealing to renters. Let's face it, happier tenants mean fewer vacancies and more consistent rental income. Plus, modernising properties could future-proof investments.
Definitely, especially if you think of selling them in the future.
Of course.
So on the flip side, the cons will be the upfront cost for landlords. It's already expensive, but along with these sort of potential bureaucratic headaches that I'm very familiar with, but for new investors, this can seem a little bit overwhelming, I suppose.
It can, very true. But with the right guidance, these challenges are actually manageable. Local letting agents, like the ones here in Lancaster and Morecambe, are already adapting to these changes, and they can help landlords navigate those new regulations.
That's it, and let's not overlook the rising demand for rental properties in this area. We've done sort of blogs and things on this before. It's driven by a growing student population. We've got some great large employers in the area, the hospital, the uni, and hopefully coming down the line eventually at some point, the Eden Project North, which should bring even more people to the Morecambe area.
Exactly, and a changing market can often create new opportunities, something we like to discuss often.
Definitely. Now, one of the more controversial changes is the proposed ban on no-fault evictions. That's a big one I'm hearing all the time. Those that are unfamiliar with it, basically that means landlords can't just serve a notice, end a tenancy without providing any valid reason, like a breach of tenancy, or they might need to sell the property or move in themselves, so they'll have to provide these important reasons.
That's right, Josh. This is actually designed to provide more stability for tenants, ensuring they're not just suddenly asked to leave without cause. But it does bring significant changes to landlords and how they manage their properties.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what do you see as the sort of pros from that kind of law that's coming into place?
Okay, well, let's start from a tenant's perspective. So it's a huge win. It creates a sense of security which could lead to longer tenancies. For landlords, longer tenants mean basically reduced turnover costs and fewer void periods.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, on the flip side, it sort of limits flexibility for landlords who might need to reclaim their property quickly, for example, to move back in or to make a significant sale. I guess we'll have to see what happens.
True, but the law will still allow for eviction for specific reasons, like if the tenant's behind on rent, causing damage, or the landlord actually needs the property for personal use, for instance. The key is that the process will require proper documentation and, of course, adherence to stricter guidelines.
That's it. And then there's the landlord register. I mean, under the new rules, all landlords are going to need to sign up for this sort of national register. We need a bit more detail on it, but we know it's something like that coming down the line.
So, I suppose it does sound like red tape, doesn't it, for some people? but let's see it as a positive change. The register ensures accountability. It makes it much harder for rogue landlords to operate.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, for responsible landlords, I think being part of the register sort of signals credibility, professionalism, and that will probably attract better tenants in the long run as well.
Exactly. So, but we've got to acknowledge the cons too. And that's potential for increased administration costs, particularly for landlords with those multiple properties.
Yeah, have to see how the money works out, I guess, if you have to pay each time. But, I mean, it comes with sort of protections. For instance, a registered landlord will have clear rights in cases of tenant disputes or legal challenges. You can show things at a certain time, and ensures both landlords and tenants are playing by the same rules, which I don't think has been the case so far.
Exactly, and for landlords operating in places like Lancaster and Morecambe, where the rental market is thriving, being on the register could actually become a selling point. Tenants actually want to know they're renting from someone reputable.
That's it, absolutely. So while the ban on no-fault evictions and landlord register might feel a bit restrictive at first, they're part of a shift sort of like towards greater transparency and stability in the rental market on its whole.
So for landlords who stay informed and compliant, these changes might even enhance their investment over the longer term. We've often maintained that with landlords we work with already who want to stay compliant and who actually want to treat their tenants well, they've got nothing to worry about.
That's it, and I think the landlords we work with is so true. So to wrap up, while the challenges in changes I think we're going to see in these new rental laws may initially feel like a hurdle, they align with the broader trends of sustainability and quality in housing, protecting that investment.
And Lancaster and Morecambe are uniquely positioned. This region offers attractive yields, increasing tenant demand, and the chance to invest in properties that can actually stand the test of time.
Definitely. So if you're considering stepping into the rental market or even expanding a portfolio you already have, now is a great time to think about it, especially in Lancaster and Morecambe. So get informed, work with local experts, and embrace the opportunity to adapt.
Absolutely. The property market is about long-term growth, and this area, as we've discussed previously, is full of potential.
Absolutely. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to The Property Perspective.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with anyone you think might be interesting in the evolving property market. Until next time.